It wasn't an easy task to finally get me out of the ring. Manny Pacquiao made sure that I felt every bit of it. If you've ever wondered what goes through the mind of a champion when they make the decision to step back into the ring after years away, you might be surprised by what you find. You'd think it would be all about nostalgia or pride, but for someone like Pacquiao, it's something deeper. The question remains, can the fire that once made him unstoppable be rekindled after all these years? I'll never forget the moments we shared in the ring. Pacquiao would be right in front of me, his lightning-fast fists coming at me from all angles, almost like a blur. After he hit me with 15 perfectly timed punches, I found myself stunned, almost frozen in place. I knew I should be ready to hit back, but each time the opportunity presented itself, I found I couldn't act. I was stuck in a state of hesitation. I couldn't pull the trigger. That's what made him so dangerous. He had this way of disorienting you, getting inside your head before you even realized what was happening. Oscar De La Hoya was in the gym, and I remember the thick air, the sound of gloves hitting the heavy bag in the background. He was standing there, taking in a familiar sight: Manny Pacquiao, shadowboxing with the same intensity that once defined his prime. De La Hoya, now in his 40s, had long since stepped away from competitive boxing. He knew, like most of us do, that boxing is a young man's game. Yet, here was Pacquiao, 46 years old and having been out of official competition for over 4 years, moving with the kind of speed and ferocity that made everyone in that gym look twice. It was almost as if he hadn't missed a beat. Despite his age, Pacquiao was moving with the kind of aggression and passion that would have been expected from someone much younger. De La Hoya came to the gym to see if the Filipino legend still had it, but what he found was not a fighter returning to relive past glories. No, Pacquiao came back because he wanted to feel that rush again, the raw, visceral thrill of competition that only a true fighter understands. And that fire, it wasn't just in his punches. It was in every movement, every step, every decision he made in the ring. I still remember the first conversation I had with Oscar when I told him, "Hey, you should fight Pacquiao." De La Hoya's first words after working with Pacquiao in the gym were pure disbelief. "He's too little," he said. And on the surface, he was right. There was a huge weight difference between the two, nearly 20 pounds. But Pacquiao wasn't just a small fighter, he was a small fighter with the heart of a lion. His ferocity reminded De La Hoya of a teenager. The punches he threw were explosive, yet each one was measured with precision. His footwork was light and quick, as if his body had somehow managed to retain every lesson, every hard-earned skill for decades of fighting. That was when De La Hoya realized he had misjudged Pacquiao's potential. He had assumed that age would have dulled his edge, but as he watched Pacquiao move, it became clear that age hadn't weakened him. If anything, it had only sharpened his instincts, making him even more dangerous than before. As De La Hoya continued to observe Pacquiao, he couldn't help but wonder why return to the ring now when there was nothing left to prove. Pacquiao's response was simple yet powerful. He wasn't in it for the fame or the money. It was the love of the sport, the thrill of facing the best, the challenge that never stopped calling him. De La Hoya nodded, understanding what many of us know deep down. True fighters don't retire. They might step away for a while, but they never truly leave. They wait for the next challenge, the next fight, the next battle to reignite their passion. Pacquiao wasn't just back in the ring to prove something to the world. He was back to prove something to himself, that even after all these years, after all the battles he had fought, his lightning-fast reflexes and blistering power were still intact. De La Hoya recalled the first time he had tried to land a punch on Pacquiao. He couldn't. The southpaw was so elusive, so quick, that De La Hoya had no chance of connecting. That was Pacquiao, a fighter who, even after years away from the ring, could still move like a man half his age. But there was more to Pacquiao's return than just the physical aspect. De La Hoya spoke about the stories he had heard of Pacquiao's daily routine. Every morning, Pacquiao would run, and after that, he would meditate, balancing his spiritual life with his physical training. It wasn't just about building strength or endurance, it was about mind, body, and soul working together. In between his rigorous training sessions, he still made time for church services, a reminder of the humility that grounded him. While other fighters might have gone through the motions, Pacquiao was living a disciplined life that fused both athleticism and spirituality. It was a work ethic that made every other fighter's training camp look like a dress rehearsal. Critics had once mocked the idea of Pacquiao coming back to fight. They claimed that his age would betray him, that the years would catch up with him, but De La Hoya saw it differently. The years hadn't weakened Pacquiao, they had only strengthened his resolve. They had stoked a deeper fire inside him, a fire that had never gone out. De La Hoya recalled the time when he fought Pacquiao. He remembered walking into the ring with all the confidence in the world, only to realize, midway through the fight, that he wasn't facing a man. He was facing a force of nature. Pacquiao had hit him with 15 precise punches, each one landing like a sermon, and De La Hoya knew in that moment that he had underestimated his opponent. That memory haunted him for years, but now, watching Pacquiao move in the gym again, it was clear that same force still lived inside him. As De La Hoya reflected on their past fight, he shifted to the subject of sparring. He spoke about the etiquette of training, how Pacquiao's camp always fostered an atmosphere of trust and respect. There was no pressure to perform for the cameras. What happened in the gym stayed in the gym. But sometimes glimpses of Pacquiao's training leaked out, and when they did, it was clear to anyone watching that Pacquiao was still operating at the highest level. His combinations were sharp, his angles unpredictable, and his work ethic unmatched. De La Hoya was struck by the fact that Pacquiao didn't pull any punches in training. There were no easy drills. Every session, every move, was executed like it was fight night. He worked as hard as he could, not just to recapture the glory of his past, but to forge a new chapter in his legendary career. It was this work ethic that set Pacquiao apart from the rest. He wasn't just trying to be great. Again, he was trying to make history once more, and then came the moment De La Hoya realized just how much Pacquiao had changed. The upcoming fight with Mario Barrios wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. Pacquiao's resume spoke for itself. But it was the fire in his eyes, the hunger in his movements, that convinced De La Hoya that this wasn't some exhibition. This was the real deal. Pacquiao was back to take on the young, hungry challengers once again, and this time, he wasn't backing down. De La Hoya recalled a conversation he had with Pacquiao just before the fight. He reminded Pacquiao of why he got into the sport in the first place: the joy, the passion, the love for the challenge. He told Pacquiao to remember that every champion, every fighter, carries the hopes and dreams of not just themselves but the people who watch them. In that moment, De La Hoya wasn't just giving advice to a fellow fighter, he was speaking to a living legend, a man whose legacy was still unfolding, chapter by chapter. As De La Hoya watched Barrios and Pacquiao spar, he couldn't help but laugh. Here was a young fighter in his prime, trying to keep up with a legend. Barrios was strong, fast, and hungry, but Pacquiao was playing with him. Every time Barrios threw a combination, Pacquiao was there, dancing around him like it was nothing. It was the oldest trick in boxing: disarm the young lion by showing that you can still roar. De La Hoya noted that Barrios was still figuring it out. He had all the tools but no idea how to disrupt Pacquiao's rhythm. He had speed, but he didn't have the experience. As the sparring session went on, De La Hoya could see the cracks beginning to form in Barrios' confidence. It was the small things: Pacquiao's grin after every missed punch, the way he taunted Barrios with every slip. Pacquiao was playing mind games before the fight even began, and that's what De La Hoya realized. This fight, it wasn't just about strength, it was about the mind. He thought back to his own early days in boxing, when a jab from a veteran felt like it could knock you out cold. A veteran's jab wasn't just a punch, it was a statement. It carried years of pain, purpose, and wisdom. And Pacquiao's jab, it still had all that power. He knew how to break a young man's spirit before the bell even rang. De La Hoya smiled as he watched Pacquiao switch to defense drills. He couldn't help but marvel at the way Pacquiao's defense was like poetry in motion: elegant but ruthless, precise but aggressive. In contrast, De La Hoya couldn't help but mock the new age trainers who focused so much on fancy tech and gadgets. Real defense, he knew, wasn't built on algorithms. It was built in the ring, round after round, sweat dripping, fists pounding. That's where you learned what it took to survive.